Hi everybody. How's it going? It is another Wednesday. Another album club is befalling you, and us folks are all here to talk about an album tonight. But before we do, I just wanted to say that there's sometimes some new people in the chat, and I just wanted to reiterate what we do here. What do we do here on Wednesdays? One of us, we take turns, we alternate. One of us picks an album that the others are not aware of. Whether we like it or not, there's no discussion, and we have to listen to the album for a week, and then we all get together under a list of questions and basically discuss the record for an hour. Doesn't mean we're all going to like it. Doesn't mean we're all not going to like it, but it's here for discussion. It's here for you folks in the chat to get involved with as well. Hopefully you're all doing your homework. But yeah, that's that. Just a quick, brief synopsis of what we do here. And gentlemen, hello. Another Wednesday. It's been a very power metal week over at Heavy Metallurgy, I will say. How y'all doing?
Excellent.
Good.
Excited.
I'm a little bit off the gun.
I'm a little bound up, and I've got gravy on my shirt. But otherwise, I'm good.
What kind of gravy?
Brown.
It's not Wednesday if TJ doesn't have brown stains.
That's right. When do you not have gravy on you? That's the question. We should
Probably when I'm sleeping, maybe. I don't know.
Well, we're here for a specific reason, and we're here tonight because I picked Lost Horizons Awakening the World. And for those of you unfamiliar with the band, I'm going to regurgitate some Wikipedia. Is it fact? I don't know, but it looked good to me. So here we go. I'm going to go through this real quick. Lost Horizon were a power metal band from Gothenburg, Sweden. They originally formed under the name Highlander in 1990 with future Hammerfall vocalist Joaquin Cans on vocals. The band went on hiatus from 94 to 99. After the reformation, the band changed their name to Lost Horizon, and Cans left to be replaced by Daniel Hyman. They released Awakening the World in 2001. Their second album, A Flame to the Ground Beneath, found second guitarist Frederick Olsen and keyboardist Attila Public joining the band. Hyman and Olsen left the band 2 years after the album's release, putting the band on hiatus again. In 2009, the band's website unveiled 3 instrumental demos titled Wizard, Spirit, and Fire, but they have been silent now for 13 years. And as I put the link to the band's website in the description for the show, I checked, and the song clips are still there for you to check out. They sound very promising, but they're just clips. They're not a full song. They're just little chunks of riffs and stuff like that. But yeah, here we are. And we're going to start off with you, TJ. What was your first impression?
Well, before I begin, I'd like to start with a little disclaimer. The opinions about to be expressed by the Glorious Swordsman, aka the comic book guy from The Simpsons, aka El Duce, aka Curtis T, do not necessarily reflect the opinions of Heavy Metallurgy, its crew, cast, contributing commentators, or any other various pukes. So suck it. Anyway, so with that being said, I may have stated on here in the past that I don't listen to power metal. I don't particularly care for power metal. Sorry, nothing personal. But my first impression of this was essentially, you look at the cover and it's cheese covered corn on the cob. I mean, that's, what more, that's initially. And then, you turn it on and start jamming it, and it's like, well, it showed a lot more impressions and, more promise than I had anticipated as far as this genre goes. I mean, granted, this record is what, 22 years old or whatever, and so I was a little, I was skeptical, as I would normally be listening to any kind of anything that's power metal, that I'm just going to be grinding my way through it so I can come in and talk about it. And friends don't meet. Yeah, Marty, what the guy said.
I'm trying to culture him up a little bit, John. Come on, we're trying to get TJ a little bit of culture.
Like in a lab, like in a petri dish. But So but my first impression initially was this: what I would normally be with power metal, just meh, I don't even care. But I was, I did. It did congeal with me more. I got about 5 solid listens to this album where I could really kind of pay attention to it. So my first impressions were kind of waylaid a little bit. So
A softening of Tej. Okay.
yeah.
I'm excited to hear.
I want
Kellen.
to be objective.
That's
So.
right. Absolutely. Kellen.
Sure. So we were just talking about this in the dugout, going to backstage, whatever. I have been through Ben and Marty. I have been listening or hearing about this album for years now. Both of them have been very public about how much they love Lost Horizon, and even for someone like who I have absolutely no background, this is a very new, specifically the European style of power metal is totally new to me. So the fact that it kept on sort of coming through, and like I know the major names, but Lost Horizon was not one of the like large you must listen to power metal names. So the fact that it kept on coming up in circles, and I had a conversation with Zoller, and he like made a point in the middle of his speech regarding an album to let me know that it is the best power metal all time. There's no conversation. He's not really open to debate on the subject.
No.
And and anyway, so it just the fact I kept on coming through, and this is the most I've ever spent with a power metal album, like in a consistent, dedicated listening process, which was kind of fun this past week for me because it was like the first time in a long time I've had that kind of immersion into a new subgenre. So if this is the place to start, I think this is a good one, and we'll kind of take it from there.
Right on. Jim.
The first time I heard this, we were, I can't remember if we were on the way back from seeing Austin, Minnesota, or coming from or going to or whatever, but we had been listening to some like a brutal black metal and stuff, and so you stuck this in, and it was kind of like, whoa. it was jolting, and but once we got into it, especially like the lyrics that you would blurt out singing along and stuff, like I developed an appreciation for it. That was years ago, and since I've listened to it a long time, so it was good you brought it back up, and I really enjoyed coming back to this, and really, like to Kellen's point, you paying attention to it, and kind of doing a deep dive into it, like not just it kind of just being in the background on a road trip. I really enjoyed it, and I'll get into why. It's not just the music, but it's also the message for me, and so yeah, first impressions, a jolt to the system. Coming back to it again, it felt like coming home in a good way. So good stuff.
Right on. Ben.
So just like the last couple of albums, I first heard this thing maybe not long after it came out or so. I can't remember how I found it. Maybe Napster or something. I was having a power metal phase back in my early 20s or so, and this was just one that I found, and holy shit, I loved it. I can't remember anything more really specific than that, but it has been just like right there with me, an album that I can never put down ever since then. I just have specific memories of hearing the second time the Fateless Eyes chorus comes around, just being like, this is fucking it. This is it.
Yeah.
Like, there's no getting around that fucking very moment where you're just like, I'm all into this album. Kellen, I thought I had an idea today where I was wishing that I would have thought of this last week. I wanted you to film your reaction to the second time the World Through My Fateless Eyes chorus comes around, because you gotta just be like, holy crap.
Yeah, those soaring pipes are like, you gotta be kidding me. It's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, I've always loved this album. It was fun to give it a deeper dive on this. But I guess my reflection on giving it a more in-depth dive to it was it's not an album that has a ton of nuance or stuff there beyond just what it is. It's exactly what you want out of a power metal album. It's not hiding anything. There's not a lot of artistic things to pontificate about. It's just perfect. It's just all around great album.
Right on. Well, for me, it was I think the first time I heard it, I was in a car with Zoller. Me and Jason and Zoller were on our way to Milwaukee Metal Fest, and Zoller put the promo in of this, or I had the promo of it. I can't remember. We, Maniacs back in the day, we got tons of promos, and I hated this record. Hated it. It was during a time where I just wanted to be cult black metal guy. That's all I wanted to listen to. Shitty black metal, straight up. And as I'm listening to the album, I could instantly appreciate the talent and the music, but the positivity of it it turned my heathen guts. I was, I'm an eternal pessimist at heart, and having all this positivity being ramrodded down my throat, I was just like not having it. And Zoller and Jeff Wagner, their insistence on me getting back around to it, it took a few years, but it finally clicked. And when it did, it was like hearing the album again for the first time. I just had to shed that crappy bedroom black metal garbage, and it, like Ben said, it's just near and dear album to my heart. I've listened to this album 15 times this week and twice today. I'm not tired of it at all. I still air guitar. I still try to sing along to it poorly. Shake the fist out the window and you're driving down the road. And it's just one of those records that timeless, perfect. But this is a kind of a big 2-part question, and it might be maybe a little too big for an hour conversation, but where does this form of metal fit? We're going to start with this first. This is a 2-parter. We're going to start, answer, and then go back to the bigger chunk at hand. But where does this form of metal fit within your listening appreciation, if at all? What are the pros and cons of this more upbeat and streamlined metal sound? We'll start with TJ.
Well, I think I made, I'm pretty sure I said I don't listen to power metal.
Sure.
But
yeah.
It does, I
want you to figure out why. You said you wanted to really figure out why you don't like it.
And it's really because, this record's what, 22 years old, and you can hear so much difference in this record as compared to like what a lot of, like what the hell is that thing with that He-Man guy and the Glory Hammer and all that mess.
Angus McSick.
Yeah. It's just like, man, that stuff it's like the shit is optimized. It's like it's perfectly perfect. It's disgustingly obtuse. It's so perfect. I just can't. I can't. It's off-putting, and it hits me in the same nerve as why I don't like a lot, like most of us don't gravitate towards commercial music, why don't we listen to Taylor Swift or Bon Jovi or any of that other crap? I mean, those there's all these talented, but it's just, it's why I don't like Lamb of God. It's why I don't, there's like why I didn't connect with Pantera very much, because there's just like this commercialness, this accessibility to it that just, it gets to me, and I can't kind of disassociate it. Just give into the cheddar. Well, we all have our moments where a great big plate of cheese is just, we have to have it. This just happens to be, some guys like cheddar and some guys like Gouda, and whatever. I don't know. But I just this record was different in that sense. But and you can listen to this stuff, and it's like where it came from, and how it evolved, and the Iron Maidens and the Judas Priests and all those sort of things, and the thundering double bass and the soaring vocals, and all things that I enjoy in different formulas and different formats. But just the way this all kind of congealed into this stuff, it just for me, it's not something I really get into. But again, I did. I in my head, did the clouds open and a bunch of bulging men riding chrome stallions come rushing in at me to be like, I've seen the glorious cod piece come from the sky and tell me that I
bulging
must,
men rushing in.
Yeah, I'm in
Will you
love
put some
with
oil
the-
on my back, bro?
Yeah, it's like no, I definitely didn't have that kind of breakthrough with this record, but I definitely there is a lot of shimmering gems on here. There's a lot of really cool stuff on here. And I am just trying to be I want to be objective. I'm trying to, so as far as my listening and stuff, it's like no, I don't even think I own any power metal. I think you tried to give me some back in the day out of some box of donate, stuff you get, and I think you tried to give me something. I think maybe I gave it to Boris. I don't know, because I know he listens to all that too. But yeah. And then as far as in the pros and cons, I mean, look, I'm always going to be on the side of stuff that pushes metal forward and expands its horizons for the listener, and if people are into it, that's awesome. And if it gets them into other stuff, but I can understand why people that listen to this might not necessarily dig extreme bands like Portal or Ulcerate or something like that, where they're just so diametrically opposite from one another in the spectrum of metal music. Yeah. And that's, I mean, what can you can't be, whatever it is, what it is. Everybody, taste is subjective, and there's no accounting for taste, and so and it's just so for me, this just falls in a place that I have tried, man. Over the years, you and I have been friends a long time, and we've commiserated and shared so many records and so many bands, and it just, this stuff just, I mean, I can remember you breaking the stuff out and the River Road House and trying to get into it, and I can never connect with the stuff. And even at this, it's like there's definitely some killer stuff in here, and I've got I feel like I've got a pretty good opinion for me for this record. But as far as all that, but again, it's not to cast any shade on this band. I mean, how could I? I mean, this record is just, it is amazing. It is absolutely incredible. So yeah.
All right, Jim, we'll start with you next.
So the pros and cons of this style of metal. I guess we'll get the cons out of the way because I want to focus on the pros. The cons are, to TJ's point, there's a commercial aspect to it. There's kind of the sing along aspect to it. Most power metal bands, including Last Horizon, have a very clean production style, which aids in that accessibility factor. Those are all elements that for the more underground metal fan are off-putting, generally speaking. But leading into the pro side of it, those are the cons. I think that for me, and I think a lot of people like a variety even within like the main style that you like, which let's just say heavy metal, and everything kind of derives from that. It's kind of good to have opposites, because when you have an opposite, it can bring you back into balance. And I love Transylvania Hunger, and I love Immortals, Pure Holocaust. I love I love Pentagram by Gorgoroth. But I'm not always in the mood for that. And also and sometimes even if I am in the mood for that, I need to be brought out of that mood. I need to be put back into balance. And the positivity and even the cleanliness and accessibility of power metal can do that for me. You know what I mean? If I'm having like a crap day at work, I'm not necessarily going to reach for something that's super down depressing. I'm not going to be reaching for that stuff. I'm probably gonna need something that's going to help me turn my mood around and help me focus. And so I might play some Blind Guardian or something like that, and it can kind of just spin that around. And so for that bringing back into balance factor, I think that power metal has its place in my like world of metal, because that's what it does. I may live most of the time in that extreme realm, but when I need to be pulled back out of it, or just need sort of a pick me up, it's a great, power metal is a great way to kind of like dig into what is good about, I guess for lack of a better word, popular, more melodic styles of music, but thrown within that metal context. So you're still like, you've got that metal familiarity that gives you power. And I think that for me, that's always been what metal is. This is power metal, but really metal is all about power. Metal powers the listener, I feel. For me, it always has given me a feeling that way. And when I'm like emotionally compromised, sometimes death metal and black metal and stuff like that can help me. But if I'm really down in the dumps, then I need to pick me up, and power metal is a way to do that without like segueing to the radio or something like that, which is kind of anathema for all of us, to do that.
Yeah.
So that's what power metal is for me. It's a way to kind of like climb the rope back up to equilibrium, and so for that I'm grateful, and this album and what I like about Lost Horizon, I won't get into this too much because I'm going to stick to the question, is just that that positive feeling, like they do it better than a lot of other power metal bands because the message there is so strong and so in your face. And Ben said there's no nuance, and he's right. No nuance in this, but that's what makes this album great. Is sometimes what you see is what you get, and I'm all about layering and Blungaus Nord, the work that transforms God, something that sounds different every time you hear it. But sometimes I see something in your face and, something that makes me want to bang my head or punch through a wall. And Lost Horizon is one of those bands that I think can do that for me.
Right on. Kellen?
So I guess for me, the start is I got into metal because I wasn't looking for music that was had an easy entrance. Like that was part of the appeal. I guess I want to push back a little bit on the idea that like extreme metal is not a positive emotion. You know what I mean? Like I feel often that's what people who look at or potentially hear in the background what I'm listening to, they'll hear like a death metal record and they'll be like, oh, it's some sort of heavy emotion that he's looking to have some sort of cathartic release off of this intense music. Like I come home and put on a death metal record and it's like stepping into a pair of sweatpants. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's not like this angry emotion, right? So I guess I don't necessarily look at it as like this. Talking about music with like an emotional narrative is really complicated, right? I think, especially for us who love extreme metal, not everything that I listen to that is aggressive and screaming and blast beats and distortion is it synonymous with anger, aggression, sadness, despair. Like I don't want to conflate the two of those things. The hardest part for me, or I guess the negative quantity, is there is like this pop sensibility to it. And you have to realize, like when I was getting into metal, it was like the rise of Dragon Force. So there was like an immediate, like, I guess if you think of Lost Horizon, they're happening around the same time frame, right?
Yeah.
But like everything that is explicitly Dragon Force and everything that is inferred, like the fans, the culture, the video games, weren't they part of like the Guitar Hero video game?
They were, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like all of that informs my hesitation in terms of getting into this genre. It's not just the music. There's all these other barriers for entry for me. It's like if I'm listening to, Nasum and like early Relapse records in 2000, right? Like Dragon Force is not my scene, right? So the idea that I would ever want to get into like or spend the time going to discover Lost Horizon, like those are the obstacles for me. Here I am 2 decades later, and what's I kind of come around is I've had a similar sort of trajectory with more traditional metal, meaning like I never would have got into Manila Road, right? But I hear other metalheads being like, you're missing out. Like you're not paying attention to an important part of the history of the genre because I'm here for grindcore, death metal, black metal, and I keep on hearing advice. So now I've kind of like slowed my preconceived notions about what a genre can be, and like I'm trying to be a little bit more patient and take time to listen to others who I trust. So that's kind of the give and take where I am with power metal.
Right on, Ben.
Yeah, I think to piggyback off of that, I think there's a lot of genres I may not feel at home in, but it's worth doing the work to kind of swim around and look around and find something that may be more to your liking, because that could really like turn your ear to other qualities that it could have, you know, in common with that genre, or like follow that artist down another kind of alley. Anyways, I kind of echo everything that everyone said here. It's power metal is definitely like a palate cleanser for me. It's an emotional stabilizer when I need it. Sometimes I just feel metal and I just want to listen to metal, and this is just, it always delivers exactly what I want out of this album and this kind of thing. There's a handful of Euro power metal albums that I really love. There's some Luca Turilli that I love. Heavenly is really great. But just a couple. I think Euro power metal is like, there's some fans who are only into European power metal, and that's all they need. To me, it all sounds the same. And there's a cream of the crop a couple of albums that I love, but they want all of it and they can't ever get enough of it. To me, that's an Ed Guy fan.
Oh man.
And so, like, I will not sit here and let people compare Awakening the World to Ed Guy any day of the week. I'm not going to do that.
No, not at all.
No, these songs are just impeccably written. So there's the power metal aspect, and I love it for its, you know, the syncopated chunkiness to it all. It's super fun to listen to tremolo riffing with double bass following along with it, and soaring power metal vocals. Like, I think of a generation where I would much rather listen to something like this than your Judas Priests or something like that. This is the soaring vocals that I want to hear. And like, I don't want to come back to the World to My Fateless Size again, but like that is just one of the moments that makes the hair on the back of my neck stand up, and other things stand up too.
Right on. Well, for me, a lot of echoing of thoughts here, but you know, like I said early on when this came out, I just wasn't having it. I was firmly in the black metal realm, and as life goes on, things come up. There was like a 2-year period where I didn't listen to any black metal. I wasn't in a great mood. Elements of that can be very depressing, and I didn't want to be there. I found myself really going towards power metal, and it was uplifting. It's fun. It tried to, like, you know, Jim said, you know, provide balance, trying to reset some sort of balance. And then once my kids started to get into it, you know, there's a mutual joy. Finally, a music that he wasn't complaining that I changed in the car. He wanted to hear certain bands. He was trying to turn me on to bands, and that made it fun too. But the pros and cons. The con for me always was, you know, we keep going back to the cheese factor. How much cheese is comfortable for you? And that's where I really had, I always, you know, as a guy that plays guitar, a fond appreciation for the technicality, the melody, the songwriting, all of it. And even as I've gotten older, I used to hate solos. Now I love them. They're very cool. An integral part of a song. I used to only care about death metal or black metal singers. Now I'm really starting to appreciate guys that can sing, or women can sing really, really great, you know, really strong. That's why the Avantasia that for the very first album club, I pulled that because you put all the world's best power metal singers on one album. It can't suck. And I just really appreciate that side of this music. So those are the pros, and the cons to me is you have to decide, yeah, the music's good, but how comfortable am I admitting that I'm not Mr. Underground guy and I actually like the cheese? I've embraced the cheese. I'm fine with it. And the thing that just kind of blows me away is I've only scratched the surface of bands in power metal. It is an endless genre. It's just like any musical genre. There's millions of bands, and you start looking on eBay and you start sniffing around. You don't know what's what and what's up and what's down. Granted, Ben's right. A lot of them sound very similar to each other because they're all very much influenced by each other or influenced by Halloween. But
Yeah.
and the second part of this question, there's a bit of, I was wordy with this, so hang with me for a second. 22 years have passed since Awaken the World was released. Since then, power metal has splintered into subgenres, but the prevailing winds have brought this form of metal to the wider masses, with bands like Sabaton enjoying over 3 million monthly listeners on Spotify. 3 million, by the way. I was shocked by that. Ailstorm, post-canceling, over 800,000. Rhapsody, over 300,000. While even the forefathers of the genre, Halloween, are over 1 million monthly listeners as well. Lost Horizon had the right vocalist. They had fierce riff and songwriting chops. They had that body-painted, cape-adorning image driven by positivity in the lyrics. If this band were to either have survived or just arrived to this modern era, how do you feel they would have fit within the endless power metal surge we seem to be in? A lot to ponder there, maybe. I don't know. Kellen, we'll start with you.
I really don't know.
All right.
Yeah, I really don't know. I guess for me, the reason I have a difficulty answering this question is if it requires a bit of like modern cultural awareness with the genre, which I don't feel I'm in a great place to sort of answer. But it's another challenging point to that is like how a band would progress. Like if they released this same album for 20 years, would like they be getting 3 million streams of whatever a month or a week, whatever? Like, I don't know. What they would have progressed into, I don't know. I haven't heard the second album. I heard it's a little bit more synth driven.
Way more synth driven. Yeah.
Okay.
It's a good record, but Ben doesn't think so, but I like it. It's just a lot more to process.
But if in that sense, like I guess if this is the top of the mountain for the genre, and they continue to more or less to stay this close, there's no reason I don't think they could achieve a certain level of popularity. And I'll get into this later on. I think, and you can correct me if I'm wrong with this, Hammerfall shares also a very similar history, right? Like they started in a Gothenburg death metal band and then moved towards power metal. Is that correct?
Yeah, and Joachim from Hammerfall was
right
at the first iteration of this band.
Right. So I think Hammerfall had members in Dark Tranquility, and then they moved towards right. So
yep.
And Hammerfall's, I guess, huge, right? Like, so there's plenty of reason to believe that they could have shared a similar trajectory.
Let's see how many listeners they have. Go ahead, continue. I'll get to the bottom of this while you're.
It's a challenging sort of speculative question because so much can happen to a band's career over the course of 20 years. So I don't really know how to answer that, but if you start off this strong, I did plenty of comparing this record to Glory to the Brave for those reasons. And I clearly like this record a whole lot more. There's nothing wrong with that. And maybe as I come around to European power metal, I'll come to appreciate that record more. But if you're asking me which one of those is better, I like this Lost Horizon record a whole lot more. And if that's a sign of whether things to come, there's all the reason in the world that they would be successful 20 years. So.
Hammerfall has 1,165,000 monthly listeners. This blows me away. Jim, same question. There's a lot there. What do you think? Would Lost Horizon survived? I mean, would they be as popular?
I kind of agree with Kellen. It's hard to say, and especially because power metal isn't my go-to. It is it's there when I need it. I stay in the darker realms more often, and that gives me power, makes me happy most of the time. But if I'm already in a dark place and I need uplift, that's when I go to power metal. So it's not something I guess I would say that I need to listen to often. But as awesome as this is, I don't know. Usually what I reach for is like mid-period Blind Guardian. I love that stuff for some reason.
Awesome.
Probably because it's awesome.
Yeah, so awesome. What I like about Blind Guardian is that sort of speed metal background of theirs stays in play. You know what I mean? Even in the modern era.
and so I think they're a little bit heavier. So I don't know how Lost Horizon would go if because bands can either stay the same, they can go lighter, they can go heavier. I think that if they kind of like charted their own course, but like stayed on the heavier side, at least for me, they'd still be relevant. But I don't know how it would play out in the scene, because it's like every other scene, it's very overpopulated, and I think a lot of the times something seems like legendary when it's cut off too short. You know what I mean? I think we have a tendency to do that as fans and listeners, not just in music, but any sort of art form. They were gone too soon. So it may be that one of the reasons this album sticks out to so much of us right now is because they only had 2 records and then it was gone. You know what I mean? It may have their effect may have waned over time if it had just kept pumping out records. Just to the same point, like I'm not much into new Blind Guardian. I mean, it kind of like the new stuff just doesn't have the power. The power. I should use a better word than that. It doesn't have the effect on me like the old stuff does. But yeah, that is an extremely good question, but also a very, very difficult one to answer. But whatever we can sort of kind of pontificate on what the what could have been. The reality is it is a great power metal record. It has every single element that you're looking for, and hey man, it puts a smile on my face. So I'm just gonna leave it at that.
Right on. Ben.
Well, I kind of love this band and this album for just like getting right to perfecting the whole idea right out the gate. This genre was just kind of really brewing late 90s, and 2001 comes out and they just fucking put a 10 out of 10 right away. And I don't really listen to the second album. I listen to it today, and yeah, it's not that bad, but to follow up an album that I can never get sick of, why would I bother listening to their second album? I never do. So
It's
honestly,
good. It's a good album.
It's pretty good. I don't need it. I could have been fine with them just having one album and just like leaving the legacy of this album behind. And I don't know, could a band who put out a perfect album continue putting out decent albums? I don't know. I kind of don't think so. And from what I hear, the guitar player Woltek and Daniel kind of had some beef, disagreement stuff, didn't get along. It seems like this happened like exactly at the right moment, or the 2 albums happened at the right moment, and they just kind of blew up. Luckily didn't, splinter off into a bunch of crappy other projects or something. In fact, no. Woltek has been in some like other stuff that's okay. Wasn't power metal. So I don't know. I'm happy that they didn't continue like watering down their legacy after this album. I can't imagine it would be possible for them to put out albums nearly close to this caliber. Who could? Even Luca Turilli just went shit tits up. So like I think a lot of these power metal bands and albums or artists can just like get to the point, get perfect stuff out there, and then they just kind of can't really keep up with it. Blind Guardian have put out a lot of amazing records, and I think I kind of like Demons and Wizards a little bit more. But they're pretty consistent. I think they had like a symphonic kind of period that I don't really care about. Their last album was really, really good, but I don't feel like Blind Guardian has even put out like a 10 out of 10, maybe 9.5 out of 10, a couple. But they're just kind of floating on that legacy of nearly great albums time after time after time. This album, though, this is just something else. This is on a tier of complete and utter glory and perfection that I can never get sick of.
All right.
I'm always curious. I wanted to hear the what was the prior the proto Lost Horizon band, the Highlander? Yeah,
Highlander, yeah.
I've looked around to see if I can find some demos of that stuff. I think that's evidence that these songs were so good because they were written 5-10 years or so before and just like honed and perfected, and then once they were able to gather the Swedish guys, they just, brought it all home and made a perfect album.
Yeah.
Big achievement.
Yep. TJ, your thoughts?
Well, I think if they put this out today, I think this as it is, I think it would really kind of come across as primitive compared to compare this to Glory Hammer or Avantasia, and as good as and perfect as this record is produced and is well performed and how good it is, but you compare that to the polish, the glistening sheen on what power metal is today. It's like it would be, I think, would be a little bit more, considered more primitive.
That's a good point.
It would come across to the audience as a lot different. But that being said, these guys are still in, they're catering, because in Europe, this is what they got, and you and I have talked about this a lot. It's like bands like this over there win Grammys and stuff. Black metal bands, they have museums dedicated to them and stuff. And so, it's like for them to come out now with this, it would still live in the same place. I think it would still have the same effect on the same kind of people, but then people have a different expectation, now as opposed to 22 years ago. So, I still think that, I don't know that it would. I don't know. I don't know if it would really change anything of the outcome of it or anything. It does. I mean, it does gel with what's happening now, but there's still, the way I kind of jumped the rails a little bit. It's like I kind of disagree to an extent with the nuance issue. It's like I think there's a lot of nuance in this, but not in the formula. It's more in the delivery. It's like the riffs that they use, and they're drawing from a lot of different influences. There's all this thrash stuff that I'm hearing in there, and speed metal stuff that I'm hearing there, which again, for this stuff, the speed metal stuff is a little more common, but I was really kind of surprised with, there were some really killer riffs in here, and stuff. And so I feel like there is a lot of nuance in it, but the delivery is absolutely from front to back. There's no deviation from that. So yes and no. But anyway, no, I think these guys doing what they do, no, even now, it's like it would. I think maybe it would even be considered like a breath of fresh air from, it's like, oh, here's all these, perfectly honed, perfectly polished bands in their cosplay outfits and LARPing on stage, and then here comes these guys, and they got a little grease paint on, and their capes and their sword, full point deduction for capes, but I have more to say. I have a few more things to say about that as we move along, but I think that the audience might be like, hey, wow, this is so different. These guys are hearkening back, a little bit. But I can see some of their influences kind of shine on this with that stuff. So I think these guys would fare as well. And it's, I mean, man, they're so good, and it's so well executed. It's like I don't think there would be really, I don't know that it would really even be a bump in the road one way or the other. So that's kind of for your question, that's kind of my take on it anyway.
For me on that question, I mean, I'm a little bit more knowledgeable than I probably should be about the super popular stuff right now. And my kid, like I said, tried to turn me on to Windrose the other day, which is, it sounds like Sabaton, but they dress up like dwarves. They've got all the, the paper mache crap, and it sounds like Sabaton. There is a contingent of power metal right now that is essentially metalized pop music. It's 100%. Sabaton is, Glory Hammer, that Ailstorm, Windrose, this new Angus McSix album that came out, the Masters of the Universe song. My kid loves it, and I like it too. I'm fine with the cheese.
How they're not getting sued over that, I still don't understand.
They must have something going on.
I was looking to see if they've gotten any licensing for that or not, and I don't know. Maybe it's just because they're in Europe and they can do whatever the hell they want. I don't know. But anyway, I'm sorry.
No, but I listened to Lost Horizon, and I listened to the progression between Awakening the World and A Flame to the Ground Beneath. And there's a progression there. Whether you like that progression, the first album is way more aggressive and fierce. The second album is a lot slicker. The keyboards are more of a predominant. I remember reading in the past, Wojciech was saying that he wished that, because he played the keyboards on the first album, he wished that the album didn't turn out the way he heard it in his head, whereas The Flame to the Ground Beneath was more in line with what he heard. He wanted more synth lines and shit, which became the forefront of the band moving forward. So if that was the trajectory they were on, whether they stayed the same or progressed further from there, they would have been a slightly different band. But if you were to drop this album in the middle of this pop-centric metal stuff going on in Europe, I think TJ's thought is, yeah, it's going to be seen as more primitive because there are thrash riffs on there. There are Swedish mellow death style harmonies and guitar work going on in there. It's obvious to me. And I think it would be seen as probably a little too aggressive to be as commercially successful. Although I did look, Lost Horizon has, like today, on 30,000 monthly listeners on Spotify, which for a band that's been pretty much dead for 2 decades, that's amazing. That's really amazing. And kind of a testament to what's going on. But yeah, I don't think it would have, I don't think they would be as popular as they were, but they were kind of, they had the capes, the body paint, the scepters, and they were kind of at the forefront of what is now. Now it's like it looks like a Marvel superheroes doing metal pop. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. I still love it, but it's crazy. It's crazy.
Do you think that the high number of plays might just be because Europe is like absolutely crazy about power metal? And
doesn't matter. There's still people listening that to get 3 million, like Sabaton.
That's got to be a part of it. That's got to be a part. I mean, obviously,
right.
I know I've hit play more than one time on some songs during the day. I'm going through it's like, so obviously there is some of that, but still, if you want to take a 300,000 and split it in half, it's still like, holy crap, whatever. It's still huge numbers,
Yeah. Well, let's talk about, we kind of went a massive sidestep here, but let's get into the musicality and composition of Awakening the World. Yeah. Sorry, everybody. This might be a little longer episode.
Great album.
That's right. Kellen, let's start with you. Musicality and composition.
Yeah. So the first thing I have written in my notes is for a power metal album, this feels very stripped down. It just, the songs initially start off with like I think this is the second track is that like chanting, like group chant for the chorus, the Heart of Storm sort of deal. It felt like a whatever. Like that totally is I did not see that was coming out.
Like New York hardcore back gang vocals.
Yeah.
These streets are tough.
But I guess what I learned was like as my favorite tracks will come actually a little bit later into the record, is that they do a really good job navigating essentially 3 different sort of paces, right? They can do slow songs, they can do mid-pace songs, they can do really fast songs, all well. So the songwriting and the musicianship is super tight. Do you like we pointed out? There are I thought there would be more synths on a record that's a power metal record, but once again, those are a little bit on the like reserved here. The major notes I have to do are have to bring up are the vocals. The vocal performance here is pretty insane. He's the only vocalist on this, right?
Yeah.
So there are times here when we have like he's harmonizing, it's he double track to harmonize it, and then at moments he'll even be like set on top of that. So there's 3 vocal parts, and so he'll be like falsetto on the very top, which he can do as like a high scream, and he can also turn that into like a piercing sort of like rasp, but it's still sung, right?
Yeah.
So you have all these different vocal personalities. He's even doing like a lecture to himself on one of the tracks. It's like I'm sorry your girlfriend broke up with you, bro. Get off the couch and let's go out tonight in power metal form. Right? It's like whatever. Like you're heartbroken. Let's stop being sad. Let's go. But it's all like in heroic caped scepter unicorn like language, right?
Yeah.
So but yeah, for me, I know there's been some sort of like disagreement in terms of whether this vocalist is discernible or makes it, him stands out amongst a whole lot of talented power metal vocalists. For me, I mean, this will be the standard that I use from now on. It was pretty wild to go through this entire record, and I actually did not know that I had listened to him before. Daniel, right? His first name.
Yeah, Daniel Hyman or Heman. I don't know.
Yeah,
he's on the Warrior Path album.
Or what are we calling him here?
Yeah, he's got a
the
name.
Ethereal Magnanimous.
Yeah. Yes.
I gotta get me one of those things.
Yeah, Cape Strong. But yeah, his vocals throughout this kept me entertained. And I'll even there's one more thing before I step away and let you talk about the guitar solos and all the incredible bass work on this. Is timing. I was surprised. So the guitarist and keyboardist wrote the songs and the lyrics, if I read the liner notes correctly.
Yeah.
But Daniel's vocal timing, like knowing when he can emphasize certain words and then exit his stanza before he leads into a chorus. Ben already pointed out for the track World Through My Fateless Eyes, there's a riff that drops off. He in the first part sings the line perfectly, right? Just goes straight through and the riff jumps back in. Second time around, he gets through halfway through that phrase and just takes flight, right? Elevates that moment and sort of is buoyed by when the guitars come back in. So he knows how to when to come in, when to emphasize, when to pull back. There's another, I think, Denial of Fate. There's a part of that song. I just want to get to it here. But the lines are, ethereal path has not been meant for thee. The myth of fate you must tear by force. He says it so quickly. He only has so much time to get that before the next stanza comes in. I was in the car listening to it, and he went through it with an incredible amount of control and syncopation before it just it was he had compressed or provided this level of dynamic tension within that couplet before it came back into the rest of the song. It was a very interesting way to think of a vocalist adding to that element of dynamics that you traditionally reserve for instruments on a record. But his mastery over this album is absolutely standout. And I just thought every time that I came back to this record, that is what I noticed in terms of pieces or nuances that improved. There's levels of the guitars here that I think I texted you at some point when you asked my initial impressions. I was there's a little bit of mellow death creeping into this at times, which caught me off guard. But I've kind of taken my spot here to talk about the vocalist, and that's really I wanted to drive home when it came to the songwriting. So,
perfect.
I will let you the rest of the panel chime in, but the vocal performance here is otherworldly. So yeah.
Jim.
Musicality, yeah. Honestly, Kellen's right, man. It's the vocals I think that drive this record. So it is kind of bizarre. That was a shock to me to hear that the guitarists and keyboards wrote all the lyrics, because this guy delivers them with such earnestness and sincerity. That's what sells me on Lost Horizon. I mean, the riffs are great, the solos are fantastic. Well phrased. I love the triplets. Sometimes they get a little too maideny for me. I like it when they're a little bit faster, a little bit heavier. But really, they all take a backseat to the vocals, because when you've got someone, first of all, obviously he's talented. You can't be a great. Well, I would argue that it's difficult, not that you can't, but it's difficult to be a great power metal band without a really great vocalist, because good vocals, they're multi-layered. the guy from Blind Guardian does as many tracks as like Queen used to do. I mean,
Yeah.
we all know that that's a thing, but sincerity is what I feel like Lost Horizon. I mean, when the guy says, "Don't forget you are metal," I mean, I fucking feel that, man. I mean, every time I just get goosebumps. I'm like, I am metal. You're so right, dude. Thank you for reminding
You're right.
me.
I'm
You know
not
what I
some
mean?
ass kissing whore.
I mean, dude, I mean, Sworn in the Metal Wind, that's my favorite song on this record. I mean, I love that, I mean, it's, again, for me, all metal is about self-empowerment. It's about power, it's about, giving you inner strength, you know what I mean? And power metal is sort of the kind of like the nadir of that, the top of the mountain of it. And though listening to it all the time would be a little too much, because I like to kind of like, get that sort of a feeling of empowerment in different ways, usually through the darker tunnels. But with this, like it's delivered with such like, it's from the heart, and I don't care that somebody else wrote it, honestly, because he's what makes these lyrics gold, man. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
If you try to break my wings, I mean, I mean, even when he like, gets on the Tom Cruise trip, man, welcome back to the days of thunder. I mean, the very first time I heard that, I was just picturing like NASCAR, and I'm like, why am I thinking about NASCAR when I'm listening to metal? Like, this is really weird, you know what I mean? But
Save me, Tom Cruise. Save me.
save me, Tom Cruise.
Tom Cruise and his tooth.
And Nicole Kidman's best performance,
Right.
But no, man. I mean, but again, like, after listening to this so many times, you forget about Tom Cruise, and you find yourself singing "Welcome Back to the Days of Thunder." I mean, you just want to be, one with what these guys are selling, man. I mean, the spirit of metal, the legacy of our kind. Lines like that, really make me feel like a part of the community. I read a lot of self-help shit. I know it's whatever, it keeps me sane. And one of the things that they say is that like a sense of community and a sense of belonging, like, is one of the things that gives you a higher quality of life. Well, when Magnanimous is saying that, the spirit of metal, the legacy of our kind, I feel like I'm there, man. I'm with my posse, with my crew. We're all one, and so again, it's that delivery that he does vocally. He does it in a very, flawless way, but more importantly, he does it from the heart. It feels real, and it freaking makes me happy, man. So, the rest of the music, all great, but to me, it's 100% the vocals that make Lost Horizon what they are, and 100% the delivery of those passionate and positive lyrics. So, kudos to them for that.
Ben.
Hard to follow up those two great commentaries.
Good stuff. Good stuff.
You're right. What metal is at its basis is about self-empowerment and giving you the power that you need to get through whatever it is you're going through. And this album, just through and through, is all about just giving you that emphasis and making you inspired to get off your ass and take on whatever it is you need to take on. And like the attitude that the delivery of the vocals possesses is exactly what you need to sell those ideas, no matter how cheesy the lyrics are or how any of it seems. That delivery is so convincing and so honest and appealing that this album is just addictive, and it never gets old. And it, like, to have that at the forefront of that band, I think the bass player, the drummer, the guitar player, as songwriters, are tremendously talented, maybe just a little bit less talented than the singer. Like, they are all bringing their A+ game on this thing in so many ways. I've noticed one of the tricks, like, I know a lot of bands do this, but I think one of the things that they do so well is they'll write a great riff that can be repeated many, many times and embellished each time it comes back, whether it's a riff or a chorus or whatever. Like The World of My Fateless Size, the second time that chorus comes around, it's just so much better. And you get eager to listen to the second time something comes around. And there's little drum tricks that the guy adds to parts here and there, so that each time it happens again, you love hearing it again, and it just never gets old and you never get sick of it. I think that's kind of the trick or the formula to what makes this band and this album so perfect. So that they're super talented guys. They wrote amazing songs. They're performed so convincingly. I think you can even hear like in the guitars there it is played with so much gusto and emphasis, and it sounds so fun. Do you think this was all recorded in live in a room together?
Probably not.
Probably not.
Probably
I think
not.
like,
It's too technical. Some of the guitar work is too technical. I don't know.
22 years ago, I mean, you're kind of like just really getting into the depths of all the digital stuff.
Yeah.
And I still, a lot of this, did they record this live? Unlikely, but most of it was, there wasn't a lot of trickery going on here. This is pretty from the feel of it, pretty genuine performances. I would think, whether, it's a multi-track and whatever, obviously, but they were definitely, bashing it out and putting it together. So it's pretty pure in that regard. I think anyway.
Yeah. I think it sounds like Wojciech was kind of the mastermind of this band. And if I know what his MO is in being in a band, I imagine these guys were rehearsing this album like a lot before recording this thing. And it shows. It's paid off by making just a near perfect record. So I don't need to double up what else has been said or not leave any room for you to say anything else, Marty, but great musicians.
Oh yeah. TJ.
Yeah, well, I think we've all kind of, I said it early on. I mean, the musicianship in this band is I mean, you can't dispute the talent that is just oozing out of this record. And there is a lot of passion in this. The riffing, the songwriting. I mean, the tracks are, they're hungry, they're ravenous, if you want. Even they are. They rip. These tracks rip. They really do. Again, I mean, my criticisms are my own of this stuff. It's just because I completely understand the appeal of this stuff, but for me it just doesn't click in that way. So, but that's just me. I'm obviously I'm the odd duck in this group of five here, but I don't care because just like I said in my disclaimer, suck it. So, but I completely agree. I completely, like the vocal delivery. There are times when there's some bands I listen to that, the 3 and 4 vocal, 3 and 4 octave range can be just, the guy comes in and he's just wailing and it's so perfect and it's so well done. And then then it's just like after a while it's just like, ugh, I've just kind of had enough of it and I just want to get back to kind of a baseline, just performance and not just these soaring falsettos and stuff. But good grief, man! I mean, and we're all falling in on the same fate, Through My Fateless Eyes, and where he comes, the second time, where instead of singing the whole line of Through My Fateless Eyes, he's just like through my, and then why, he just reaches it out. And I'm just like, God,
best part of the song.
Oh man, there's a lot of good parts in that song, really. But it's just a really, it was a cool little device. I was like, that's really, that was a cool idea. The way he managed to pull it off and deliver it that way, and it was really cool because it was a very impassioned kind of piece of the performance that I thought was really good. But I mean, anything else? I mean, everything else is kind of on it's on the face of this as you listen to it. I mean, there's talent, there's without a doubt, these guys just they rehearse, they know their instruments, they're not a bunch of chumps, and it just shows. It just, like I said before, it oozes out of this. I dig the guys, his vocal timbre at times, and this is my take, and for my ears, he kind of reminds me of James LaBrie sometimes. I hear his vocal pitch in there sometimes, and I really like his singing. I don't like a lot of what he does with Dream Theater, but I dig his vocals and stuff. So there was moments where it was like, oh God, he sounds like James LaBrie. So I thought that was kind of cool too. But just these guys are just absolutely stellar. I mean, like I said, perfectly perfect. It's
Perfectly perfect. Yep. All right.
Like you, Jay.
I mean, we could all go on about the vocals. They're amazing. I think it's his vocal performance is like the exclamation point on an already perfectly written sentence or poem or whatever you want to say. But I love the false, the where he goes soaring like that. But I also his mid range. He's like Welcome Back and the song after Welcome Back, Kingdom of My Will. He really lives in that mid range, and he really, really piles on the emotion in those compositions a lot. And then he throws in the false, or the falsetto and then the screams, and it's a nice mix. But the music, what we've talked briefly is, I love the bass work. It's like if Steve Harris played with a pick. It's really busy but melodic. Wojtek's guitar work. He's not afraid to play just a chord progression and let the bass take center stage. He'll play a simple chord progression, the bass comes in, or a really subtle synth line really adds a lot of color to a song. But when he kicks up the technicality, it's not over the top Watchtower type of technical stuff. It's very melodious, all of it. It's very hooky. It's the way he layers it into the songs and writes these songs that come back around to have a good hook that could live perfectly fine without Daniel's vocal contribution. They would be great songs without him. But the two of them together, I mean, Daniel's power and poise and inventiveness and placing these lyrics that he didn't write over this music, like Kellen said, so perfectly and nailing it. It's just an inspiring, well-written album for me. Production, does anybody have anything really to say about production? I mean, other than it sounds great. Is that something we want to skip maybe? Or is there somebody want to say something?
Everything's amazing.
Can I take one?
Yeah, of course. Absolutely.
Yeah. The drum sound, I know this is supposed to be a prim, pretty, perfectly perfect power metal record, right? But I a little bit of the drum sound I did not have a preference towards. I thought it was a little bit tightly wound for me, but that could just be a genre thing, right? Like that could be the sound of what a power metal record is supposed to sound like. So my complaint could be a little bit, misjudged there, but nevertheless, if you're asking me for me to like nitpick part of the production that didn't work for me, that would be it.
Drums in power metal are typically kind of mechanical, very clicky at times. Just kind of the way it all kind of boiled out in the digital era. Anybody else have anything they want to say about that?
Yeah, nothing wrong with it.
All right. Favorite, least favorite songs. Since you're up in the corner, TJ, let's start with you.
Pretty much Welcome Back and Through My Fateless Eyes. Those songs to me, Through My Fateless Eyes follows the formula a lot closer. Welcome Back kind of deviates a little bit from the strict formula that they're following on the record. And you can't really say it goes into a darker place, but it definitely comes off of the, all the major chords and major notes and gets a little bit more into the flatted fifths and things like that to some extent. But both those songs kind of just the chorus and stuff, the hooks are right in them. And Through My Fateless Eyes, the way that chorus, it's just, I mean, that riff just breaks through, and then the way it just kind of soars up.
It's a great riff.
It's just both those tracks just are really killer. I mean, there's not much I can really go into detail about, they're just good. I really enjoyed them. I put both of them in my playlist, so maybe you won me in that, but beyond, the rest of it. And then that you were right. Was it, what the hell is that one track? I can't even remember now.
Sworn in the Metal Wind.
Yeah, for me, it's like any band that puts metal in the lyrics more than 3 times is kind of a red flag right away. Now, I mean, you've got bands that have done it all, Possess and death metal, Venom's black metal. So it's like you can do it.
Power metal.
And make your make your point. But it's like you start just like every second song or every other song, it's like, there's something in there about being metal or whatever. It's like, okay, man, it's kind of a red flag for me. So, but beyond that, man, it's kind of where I'm at with my faves and stuff. So,
all right, Kellen, faves, least faves.
So I guess the stretch of Through My Fateless Eyes through Denial of Fate. So tracks 5, 6, 7, that heart of the record, that was my favorite sort of portion to it. We already talked at length about Fateless Eyes. Perfect Warrior is the slower track there. And then Denial of Fate, that one kind of picks up the pace. Anyway, I kind of got the entire range of emotion on those 3 songs. So that's the heart of it for me. But it goes so quickly, the track listing. The first tracks are a little bit more upbeat and faster. So they kind of breezed right through. I can't really get settled into them. I'm here for a power metal record. If I don't have some sort of unicorn, Pegasus, whatever going on, I'm a little bit disappointed. I'm here for a power metal record, so I don't need your speed metal, please. But but nonetheless, like if I was merging onto the freeway, I would absolutely want to listen to Heart of Storm. That'd be like one that I'd want to throw on for sure.
Yeah.
So you mentioned, I think the last 2 tracks are my least favorite. Welcome Back and Kingdom I Will.
What did you say?
He's coming through that mic at you, Kellen.
I knew my presence here was at risk.
What did you say?
Yes. Okay.
welcome to my world of dissent.
It sucks. The songs aren't bad, but I just feel like the back end of this record sort of slows down at a mid pace. It sort of slowly exits. It doesn't leave on a triumphant note for me. So the fact that the last 2 tracks are a little bit more on that mid pace, like you talked about, isn't necessarily bad. It's just I wanted to end on like something a bit stronger. So if we had moved an earlier song that broke up the pacing for me, it would have had a greater impact. But those are my thoughts. They aren't bad tracks.
They didn't go out triumphant. They're more emotive. I would say
sure. So,
yeah.
I'm not completely dismissing them. You can save your hot trash for potentially a different comment, but
I've just made this hot trash. I need to use it tonight.
Yeah. In the words of Kellen, meh.
That's all I got.
Right on. Jim, faves, least faves.
In the words of the Most Extreme Elimination Challenge, Kellen, you're wrong. Kingdom of My Will kicks ass, man. I mean, come on. Like I said, Spirit of Metal, Legacy of Our Kind. Come on, dude. And it's amazing. Love it. But my favorite song, actually, again, Sworn in the Metal Wind, for the same reasons TJ hates it, the same reason I love it. I don't think you can say the word metal enough. I lived through the shit-tastic 90s when I had trouble getting my band shows. When I would tell them we were a metal band, they would shut the door. I had to say, well, we play heavy stuff. That'd be how I'd convince a club owner to let us play. Like there was a time in the 90s in Atlanta, Georgia, where you could not play. You couldn't get your band in any coverage. You can play gigs. So I always was really disgusted with people that poo-pooed the word metal. So somebody that raises that flag high with a big middle finger, I'm like, I am behind you 100%. You know what I mean? It's like, there's a reason I don't live in that city anymore, and that's one of the reasons. But so anyway, love Sworn in the Metal Wind, and also love Welcome Back. I'm actually am a Tom Cruise fan, so bring on the Days of Thunder. I love it. So good with it. Even the kind of Somewhere in Time-esque intro, a little bit too much like Old Maiden, but you know what? I love Old Maiden, so bring it. It's good. And I got to call out Denial of Fate. There's another that has a really great chorus on it that I really like. Which I mean, that's par for the course for this band. As far as things I don't like, I like every song in this record, but there are moments where, again, there are moments, where it's, I don't like on Heart of Storm where they keep saying, hey. It makes me think of those old cartoons where they had the Russian guys doing the dance and they would kick their feet out and say, hey, like, hey, hey. So that's the one thing I don't like. But other than that, it's strong enough where even the weaker moments are just kind of overshadowed, by the positivity and the power and just the fun, man. Sometimes it's okay to just have a good time. And Marty, I could see myself at Fat Camp around the fire, no shirt on, listening to this one.
That's right. Awesome. Ben.
How to pick a favorite song from a perfect album. I guess Roll Through My Fateless Eyes, man. That's the one where I remember distinctly just going, this is a special album, and this album will always be with me because of that moment. So it's a little bit better than the other amazing songs on it. And I don't know, Marty, you might kick me out, but I think it does kind of it ends on kind of a, I don't know. But tell you what, it's such a perfect album. Would you really want to be just dropped on your ass from heaven? You got to be down a little bit and set back on your feet so you can be metal.
Yeah.
It's not as perfect of a song as most of the other songs on the album.
Right.
So there you go. Yeah. Favorite, least favorite.
Okay. Well, me, I guess, did I skip anybody? No. For me, favorites, Welcome Back. Superiorly crafted metal song, amazing guitar and riff work, Steve Harris styled bass work empowers the chorus with a simple chord progression beneath it. Daniel centers on a powerful mid-range, finding very emotive melody lines to deliver the lyrics. And that solo, oh my God, a 3-part solo. It starts off a gradual, chilling, feeling the vibe.
Yeah.
Then it hits I don't know if they're finger tap, hammer-on type stuff, but it's blows my mind every time. Ultimate air guitar solo, amazingly pieced together, flashy without going over the top. The song's amazing, blows me away, and I love The Kingdom of My Will. I think I see what you guys are saying about how they ended the album, but the beginning and the middle are such a bombastic assault. It's kind of nice to, and these songs don't just tail off into meandering. There's a lot of movement. They're just a little bit more emotive. Maybe they would have been a little bit better mixed in, but Kingdom of My Will, it's the second to last track. It's less overall flash in favor of solid and memorable riffs. The tech guitar play comes in. It's like an intro to the verse. It's really, really catchy. It's the hook of the song. It makes the verse even more powerful. I mean, Daniel again is in the mid-range, really adding to the feel and passion and movement of the song. Even the woo 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 woos, or whoa, 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 that part, just perfect time, perfect place. Good stuff.
Love those woes, man.
I
Love
know.
the woes.
Perfect placement. World Through My Fateless Eyes, amazing song, great chords and guitar work. I mean, perfect. We've gone on about that. I've got no negatives on this album. I think it's great from start to finish. The Sworn, I picked Sworn in the Metal Wind as my least favorite because of the metal centric type of lyrics. I like it.
Mastered.
I like it. No, it doesn't bother me because I've come to realize that I enjoy cheese. I just do. I love it. I was listening to it when TJ was, for his first impression of the record, what he had to say about it. I'm like, they put this song really early in the track listing. So you're coming off of a pretty powerful hitter, and then you're going into, don't forget you are metal, reminding you not to forget that you are metal and all this stuff. I'm like, I'm sure that's just bugging the shit out of TJ. But
I
again, I
don't need
love
a
the song.
band in a cape to tell me I'm metal.
That's right. All right.
Get 'em.
We'll just end it there. Judgment, final thoughts, TJ.
Okay, so I gave them a full point deduction for the cape, but I added
What about
a
the
point
body
back.
paint? What about the body
Well,
paint?
So let's talk about Conan the Barbarian for a second. So
Appropriate.
Conan, when Conan got some money and got some time, he bought pants and he put pants on. And early on he didn't have pants; he had the loincloth. And and it's like, when do you change your loincloth? It's probably when it sticks to the tea bag. But I digress. So these guys, they're wearing pants. They got their scepters, but then there's always, what's his face there with the cape, and I'm just like, dude, you're in a cape and you got no hair. You're losing a point for that, man, because it's like you don't
Tread carefully here. Us follicle deficient dudes, we stick together. Anyway, go ahead.
So anyway, so I feel like, okay, so that they stepped up their game and put on some pants. So they get they brought back up. So B+. I'm never gonna listen to this again, except for the two tracks. They are in my my playlist that I have on Spotify all the time. It's spinning, and those songs are great. I really enjoyed them overall. To be completely fair and objective, it's like this is absolutely a great record, but I just it's not my wheelhouse for metal. And I wish because I'm kind of jealous, and to some respects, so I'm listening to you guys, and Ben, like, this is the best thing since sliced bread, and I've had this record, and it's I sleep with it, and it's just the best thing, and I pet it and I stroke it. It's like God, I want to be able to have that passion for this style of music, this style of metal, and I just nope. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna listen to this. Right. My Dying Bride or something. Just make me miserable. Happiness, joy. Get away from me and let me be dejected and somber with my music. So
It's
but
okay to be
definitely
a broken person.
yeah. So. But yeah, man, anybody, don't worry about what I'm saying so much, other than that this record definitely is a good record for sure. And I did come around a lot listening to it.
Wow. If anybody here knew the amount of bitching that's been going on behind the scenes about this, and he gave it a B. Did I hear him say B+?
Yeah, and
I was very
hear-
surprised.
did I
very
hear-
surprised?
Did I hear B+ come out of his mouth after the week of hearing this is stupid and this is crap?
And again, the point deductions are really more about image than anything. Because being a huge fan of the Conan movies, the first one mostly, second one it's okay, but and I made it's like these guys put their pants on, and then they got up there and they got their swords and their shit going on. And it's like, okay, at least they went to that, instead of like, no, I'm Manowar, I'm in a cod piece and I'm gross. Look at it. So right on. But yeah, for sure, definitely this record is definitely B+ in my book for sure.
All right, Ben.
If I was as handsome and svelte and fit as these guys were, there's no telling what I'd be wearing. Yeah, I love it. I'll never get sick of this album. It's a top 20 maybe for me. It's not normally my wheelhouse, but this is just the creme de la creme of something that I'll always need to have in my life. Well fucking done.
Right on.
I'll check out Luciferion too. like the precise guitar work in a death metal, like brutal death metal context is really awesome.
Yeah, you can hear some Lost Horizon on it sometimes. It's kind of,
Totally,
I've got the one with the Dali piece on it with the crucifixion Dali art piece of art. It's great. And there's like a couple moments of it's like, whoa, that sounds like Lost Horizon, but with brutal vocals. Yeah. Okay.
Cover.
Yep. Kellen.
So after hearing so much about this, it did not disappoint.
The buildup is always it could be disappointing if it doesn't click.
Yeah, no, it was a lot of fun, and I'll probably go back to listen to it again here recently just to make sure that maybe those last two tracks I'll finally connect with and I'll grow to appreciate. But I'll say this, like, it's a good place to start, right? Like, for someone who's trying to get into this and learn more about the genre. I remember, whatever 20 some years ago, 20 plus years ago, listening to Altars of Madness, right? Like that kind of experience of listening to a great record from a genre that try and get you established so you know what to look for. And, it's a great place for me to begin. And here goes my adventure into did I pause? My face is dead.
You paused. You're still here. Okay. We can hear you, but you're paused. Yeah.
Okay. But yeah, I will probably now begin my adventure into European power metal. So we'll see where this goes.
Right. Kel, I got just a playlist for you. I put together creme de la creme European power metal playlist.
You've got a Halloween CD coming your way. I just need to get it in the mail.
All right,
Jim.
Yeah, man. Obviously, this was I hadn't listened to this in a long time since you and I hung out, Marty. So it was a great return, and it's just been a fun ride. Lots of smiles and happiness. A great sidebar. I've been listening to that new Jade a lot, so getting some really depressing atmospheric death metal and going to this back and forth has been pretty fun. And one's a great counterbalance for the other. So yeah, this thing, it makes me happy. So it gets a 9 for that. And I've already been on Discogs while we were talking, trying to find it. So, hey, Marty, buying one reissue on vinyl. Come on, man.
That'd be amazing. Yeah. That'd be amazing. That'd be cool.
Make it happen.
Yeah. Oh, it's just me. Okay. Perfect album. It really is. I think Halloween invented the power metal, European power metal sound, and in a lot of ways, through a little bit more aggressive ideas, I think Lost Horizon kind of perfected it on this record. It's a tough thing to say, I guess, but because Halloween's still putting out great stuff, but I think this is an amazing record. It's the musicality, the vocal prowess, the way it all sits together. It's just it's a song. It's an album that brings a lot of joy, and it's nice to have that tool in your tool chest. I think because people that tend to revolve around one style of music too much, you're risking burnout. It's nice to have cleansing of the palate. Absolutely. 100%. So yeah, great album. And thank you everybody for humoring us on this longer than normal conversation. Kellen, I don't think we discussed it, but it is your pick. I don't know if you have something ready.
We had not discussed it, but I came prepared just in case.
Wow.
Right on.
Okay.
Nice job.
We're professional. It's a first class act over here on Heavy Metallurgy.
That's what we do. Yeah.
This theme we'll keep with bands that closed too early in their career. This band, I just got a 2-song EP that after 11 years of silence, but one of my favorite death metal bands that's back. This is their 2012 release. This is Necrovation, self-titled.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And next week.
All right.
I may have that one. I'd have to look. I can't remember.
I saw them play Metal Threat Fest 2019, day one, and then some other band canceled, and then they played a whole nother set the second night before.
Necrovation, self-titled. Hopefully I spelled it right. I think I did.
You got it.
Okay, cool. Coming up Friday, Aaron the Metal Theologian is coming on. We're having a kind of a brain exercise regarding new wave of British heavy metal. There'll be more. You'll know more when we turn on the show. But definitely, we'll see you Friday. And thank you guys for hanging out. People, we're doing reviews. I don't know if you've noticed. Mondays, I just did a review for the new Twilight Force record, At the Heart of Winter Vale. Go check out that review. Simon from Explosive Action, Kellen from Killing for Company, and Melanie from Melanie Loves Death Metal have also contributed reviews as well. Every Monday, go check it out. Ben's going to be doing one soon here as well. So, but cheers, everybody. Thank you, guys. It was fun as always. Thank you so much. See you next week for Necrovation. Cheers.
Cheers.